For roughly 3 billion years, life on Earth stayed very small and very quiet. The oceans were dominated by microscopic, single-celled organisms. Eventually, they formed thick, textured slime mats across the seafloor, providing a grazing ground for the Ediacaran biota, a collection of sluggish, soft-bodied blobs that meandered blindly in the dark. This ancient ocean was entirely devoid of modern biological weaponry. Nothing had teeth to bite with, no shells for protection, and no eyes to see what might be swimming nearby. There were no predators. Then, around 538.8 million years ago, that tranquil timeline ended. The fossil record shifts from simple, stationary blobs into a rapid diversification of complex animal life. We call it the Cambrian explosion. In a geologically brief period, the oceans filled with new anatomical designs. Soft tissue gave way to hardened armor. Tentacles and claws emerged for grasping, while rows of serrated teeth developed for tearing flesh. Within a window of roughly 20 million years, passive grazers of the Ediacaran were mostly gone, replaced by an ecosystem defined by pursuit and evasion. The Burgess Shale in Canada and the Changjiang site in China provide the most complete record of this transition. These locations are what paleontologists call Conservat Lagerstätten. In typical fossil beds, only hard shells and bones survive, but these specific deposits trapped animals in fine mud so quickly and perfectly that they preserved intricate soft tissues, giving us a high-definition snapshot of the Cambrian ecosystem. These scientific sketches show the diversity of the creatures found trapped in that mud. We see segmented bodies, intricate antennae, and grasping appendages. Some were alien in appearance, like Opabinia, which possessed 5 distinct eyes and a grasping trunk. Others were massive for the time, like Anomalocaris, a 3-foot-long predator that patrolled the waters above. So, how did biology make that leap? What exactly forced life to transition from slow, stationary blobs into complex, armored hunters in such a compressed timeframe? The Cambrian explosion was the result of a perfect storm. 3 distinct forces, geochemical shifts, genetic advancements, and ecological pressure, converged at the same moment to drive a biological diversification. The first trigger was environmental. As the supercontinent Rodinia rifted apart, tectonic activity pushed mountains of nutrient-rich rock into the oceans. This fed vast algal blooms that increased oxygen levels. For the first time, these animals had the vital chemical fuel required to support large bodies and active swimming. Simultaneously, the shifting tectonic plates altered the chemistry of the seawater itself. The oceans experienced a drastic surge in dissolved calcium, reaching levels that would have been toxic to earlier life forms. To survive, organisms developed biocalcification. By pulling those excess minerals out of their internal systems and excreting them externally, animals inadvertently built themselves the very first protective hard shells and skeletons. These tectonic and chemical changes set the physical stage. Oxygen provided the energy to move, and calcium provided the hard structural blocks needed to build complex skeletons. However, minerals like calcium only lead to complexity if there is a system to organize them. That system arrived in the form of bilateral symmetry, a body plan that mirrors the left side to the right side. This layout is governed by Hox genes, which dictate a strict grid, telling the body exactly where to put a front, back, head, and tail. Once moving forward, it became efficient to cluster light-sensitive cells and early brains right at the head. With Hox genes mapping the body and sensory organs leading the way, animals evolved from passive filters into directed navigators. Higher oxygen levels allowed for constant active movement, which meant encounter rates between organisms surged. And this crowded environment, species that developed the ability to consume organic tissue from their neighbors gained a massive energetic advantage. This ignited an intense arms race. Predators evolved sharper drilling jaws. Prey developed thicker protective armor. Every innovation demanded a countermeasure. Desperate to escape these new hunters, prey animals stopped crawling over the microbial slime and started digging straight down through it. This mass burrowing behavior is known as the Cambrian substrate revolution. By tunneling into the seafloor, these animals churned and aerated the sediment. They destroyed the firm Ediacaran mat world, turning it into a soupy mix, and creating entirely new three-dimensional habitats in the mud. This cycle of predation and defense accelerated morphological change, pushing the genetic and environmental raw materials into the extreme anatomical diversity seen in the fossils. This period of biological experimentation, where nearly any bizarre body plan could find a way to survive, could not last indefinitely. This chart tracks biological diversity. Notice the yellow peak. These are bizarre Cambrian experiments like Archaeosauda sponges. Shortly after, the Sinsk extinction wiped them out. But look at the red and blue sections. Those are the survivors. As they claimed every available space, ecological incumbency took hold. Food webs became so competitive that no fundamentally new body plan could gain a foothold. Because those biological niches were occupied, a diversification of foundational phyla on this scale will likely never happen again. The Cambrian explosion established the anatomical foundations for nearly every major animal group alive today. The armored, segmented oddities found in the Burgess Shale are the ancestors of modern arthropods, linking those ancient seafloors to modern spiders, insects, and crabs. The early shelled creatures established the line for modern mollusks, and buried in that same mud are the fossils of the very first chordates, small swimming creatures possessing a primitive dorsal nerve cord. That specific anatomical breakthrough is the starting line for the evolution of all vertebrates, including humans. The modern world, every complex animal, every predator and prey, was authored in the crucible of the Cambrian explosion.